Fandoms Anonymous.
I watch Black Nerd a lot. Black Nerd is a YouTuber, but Black Nerd has a lot of pull in certain genres. One specifically, my favorite, Power Rangers. So, Black Nerd just released the fact that around this time last year, or maybe around February to March last year, that him and there's a couple named Bruno and Mia that do a channel called MMPR Toys. And MMPR stands for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, guys didn't know. So they do a video blog on all of the new toys, whether they're coming in America or overseas. They even get toys sent to them, and they do a review of everything. So Black Nerd, Bruno, and Mia were flown to where they were filming the movie. And Black Nerd was just able to release the fact that he had already been out there. He was also he did a whole video. He said, my big Power Ranger secret. He said, I feel guilty. I've let all you fans down. That trailer you saw, I saw it. He said that some of those scenes you saw, I saw it. But I did a review anyway because it was what was going on. He said, they flew me out. We had a good time. I'm just able to start talking about this now. So it's not even critics anymore. And I wouldn't necessarily call Black Nerd a critic. He's a YouTuber.
Right.
So he makes videos about everything. And they're reaching those people. So it's not necessarily about print anymore, or what gets written in magazines or newspapers or articles. It's about people who are out there who have a specific voice to a specific genre or a specific fandom or a specific property. And those three are heavy Power Ranger people. And they flew them out to the set. They met the cast. He had interviews that he did with the cast last year that he just released. So he's been sitting on this stuff for a minute. So what do you guys think about them branching off, not just to critics, but to YouTubers and bloggers?
Well, I love this conversation. Kevin, take it. Sorry.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. You go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
So I love this conversation because I think another thing that gets lost in translation, I think, in a lot of these conversations is that fans are critics. Critics are fans. Nowadays, all you need is a webcam, and you can be a critic. Or, Malcolm, what you said, is a YouTuber a critic? Is a YouTuber that discusses movies or television on their channel a critic? Is a critic somebody who is a movie snob and doesn't like Star Wars, or can somebody who's a huge Star Wars fan still be objective when it comes to a Martin Scorsese movie or something like that? And I think that there's no one big way of grouping people together. No matter what we're talking about, it's like that stereotypical idea that critics are like film school snobs that get pleasure out of eviscerating pop culture icons. I don't believe that to be true, because the age that we're at right now, it's people our age that are kind of running the world, like they're making the commercials that we watch. They're cutting together the trailers that we see. They're working on the productions of those movies that we're talking about, and I look at somebody like Jeremy John. Go ahead.
If you don't mind, let me jump in real quick to say this one statement. When you said people our age, so we range from the 25 to 34. Anybody older than 34, raise your hand. But we range in that area, and I've gotten real heavy into my YouTube analytics to see who my videos are reaching. The highest percentage for views on my channel for any video that I have ever posted is the 25 to 34 age range.
Interesting.
That age range is taking over the industry and the things that like you said, what we're doing and what we're watching. But go ahead. I just wanted to make that point.
Well, no, and that's very valid, and the YouTube analytics and stuff do come down to it, because what you had mentioned about Andre is kind of this idea that YouTubers are the new voice, and they kind of permeate culture in a way that, like, okay, Amy, whatever, and I think Amy Nichols writes for the LA Times, or I don't know that that's right for sure, but she writes for the LA Times, and everybody in LA reads a copy of that newspaper. Or in the case of the LA Times, kind of like the New York Times, people all over the country read it, but it still doesn't have the potential to reach the same kind of numbers as when you upload it to the internet. And people like Jeremy Jahns, very, very influential to film fans. Chris Stuckman does a very similar thing to Jeremy Jahns. They point a camera at their head and they talk about movies, but they do it in such a different language, you know, from one to the next. It's like you can hear a lot more of Chris Stuckman's actual film experience and knowledge of film into it, where Jeremy Jahns is just a lot more animated, a lot more excited and exciting to listen to, you know, and there's a place for both of them, but they're both critics, you know. You look at that lady who I've kind of dogged out before, I can't, Grace. Beyond the trailer, she's a critic, and that's what I'm saying is, like, now the lines have blurred. You look at the Schmoes Know guys; they got their start off talking about movies like Buddies would after a movie came out, not really getting into the language of filmmaking and the process and all of that. And there's a market for it. And then Disney flies. Or Lucasfilm takes those guys and puts them at Star Wars conventions so that they can share their excitement with their base. So I think that's where a lot of that, not necessarily bias comes in, but the slant. You know, it's like they can find the people like Andre Black Nerd who are super into Power Rangers, and they can cherry pick them out of there and be like, if this guy gives Power Rangers good reviews, then his million fans that are fans of Power Rangers will also probably like this. And Kevin, you had alluded to that a minute ago, but that's kind of what I think about the difference between the two is that they're interchangeable. They're one and the same. There is no, like, when critics don't like Batman v Superman, fans, and not all fans, but some fans will attack critics and lash out at critics and say that critics don't understand. But some of them do. Some of them are huge fans of comic books, and they still don't think the movies work because we all just speak a different language when it comes to what we like and what we want out of movies. So that's my nutshell input.
What's your take on that, Kevin? Go ahead.
Well, I guess so for Black Nerd, and I haven't watched his channel, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm not attacking him or coming at him in any way. I like that guy's channel. I guess my thing is, if they fly him out there and he gives a chance to look at it, but he has an embargo until after the movie comes out that tells me they have no faith in the movie. I don't understand why he's just now able to put those interviews up. To me, it's like if the movie bombs and he puts the interviews up, nobody's going to give a shit. And if the movie's good and he puts the interviews up, then that's just one more thing we got in our arsenal. Again, I get it. It's a movie. It's there to make money. I'm just saying that embargo that he had, to me, seems like they didn't have any faith in it. Now, to show you the difference between the audience and the YouTubers versus the certified critics on Rotten Tomatoes, Power Rangers has a 47%, which means it's not certified fresh. Okay? Its average rating is a 5.1 out of 10. It's 106 reviews counted. Okay? 50 fresh reviews, 56 rotten reviews, which is why it's 47%. But if you look at the audience analytics, 80% of the audience like it. So it's fresh on the audience side. It has a popcorn over there. Average rating is a 4 out of 5 out of 33,441 reviews. Now, if you take so 33,441 people, their average score was 80%. The average rating was 4 out of 5. There's only 106 critics that reviewed this movie. Those 106 people are less than 1% of the people that watched this film and liked it. Why are we listening to critics? We should not be. However, you can watch a critic, take what they have to say, and still go see your film and make your own point. This is why the YouTubers are far more important. It's because
in your face, Roker.
Right. It's because any given Wednesday, you can turn on Black Nerd and he's wearing a Power Rangers shirt, but he could be talking about anything else. You understand what I'm saying? So, and also, too, you want his video near your trailer video that you just posted on YouTube that, cost you whatever amount of money to post that trailer. Then under that video, there's a guy doing a breakdown video telling you how much he likes it. The reason why YouTubers are important because they live in the virtual landscape that the trailer is posted.
That's a great point.
So if you just play the video and then play a trailer and then just let the next video play. Typically, it's one of two things that's going to happen. It's a breakdown video or it's the next trailer, depending on what page you're on. But you can look on the side and scroll, and you can see people that are talking about their trailer. So, again, I understand why they went there. The thing about this Black Nerd and this embargo kind of bothers me a little bit, and I think they might have been on the fence about this film. Now, he flew out there early. That was a long time ago. Maybe they said, hey, we're just going to hold this embargo, and maybe they forgot about it. I don't know what happened.
Right.
I can tell you that when DC flew those guys out there, they flew them out there to put out goodwill about the movie. I can't think of somebody online better than Andre to buy you some goodwill for the Power Rangers movie.
Well, I don't think it was necessarily a negative embargo. I think it was because it was so early. I mean, they were still in deep filming. The movie wasn't even finished. So I don't think it was a negative connoissance to what, them not putting in anything out there yet. The movie wasn't nowhere near finished at the time that he went.
Sure, but let me break this down for you.
Was he able to review it after the movie? I mean, was he able to release that stuff immediately after the movie came out, or was it a week after?
No, he put this stuff out 2.5 weeks before the movie came out.
Okay.
The fact that he went. No, this wasn't after. This was 2.5 weeks before.
Understood.
Okay, no, I misunderstood what you said. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, that's understandable. Okay. I thought that the way you explained it, what I got from it, I thought the embargo was until after the movie came out. No, 2 weeks is great. No, I understand.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks before the movie dropped, he put out the fact that he had been to the set. Then he put out his video blog about him going to, I think he was in Vancouver. He talked about all of that.
No, that's great. Yeah, because that's part of the big marketing push for the movie. Now I understand. Okay, because I was kind of confused about why you
thought it was after.
Yeah, I thought it was after. No, that makes perfect sense. That's pretty standard for a lot of this stuff. What's not standard is what DC did, a full year or some change before the movie's coming out. What they did with him, that's pretty standard. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay.
And when you said about it coming up on the up next column when you're watching a trailer, that is so on point. And if you think about it now, trailers typically get released on YouTube before they get released in the movie theaters. It used to be that you had to wait to go to see a movie, and then you would see the next movies that were coming out. Well, now they'll drop those same trailers on the Internet the previous weekend or whatever, and YouTube trailers generate the most advertising and get the most eyes on these properties of anything. I mean, more than network television or something, by today's standards, which is just crazy how much the landscape is shifting. But I did want to clarify on my end, I just wasn't thinking about this aspect of it. But Kevin, you're completely right. If a movie like Power Rangers is rated 45% by critics and an 80% by fans, a lot of times you got to look at it like this. Critics have to go see every movie. They have to. It's their jobs to go and review a movie. If it's about the gay porn industry and they're not necessarily a fan of the gay porn industry, they still got to go see the movie so that they can talk about it. Well, fans will probably not pay the money to go see that same movie, So, this is what I'm driving at, guys. That was the weird path to take. But what I'm saying is you won't go see a movie that you're not interested in unless you have to. So if I'm going to go spend $20 to see one movie this year, it's going to be the one that I'm a big fan of. So when you look at a property like Power Rangers and 45% of critics liked it, that's because just 55% of them didn't care about the Power Rangers in the first place. They didn't grow up watching them. They have no discernible relationship with this series, with these characters, or anything.
They're the critics of a lot of these properties, and I'm talking specifically about Power Rangers. I'm a big Power Rangers fan. They know jack diddly squat about Power Rangers in itself. So they're talking about the movie based on the movie that they sat down and saw. They know nothing about the lore. They don't even know that it's still on TV.
Yes.
You know,
and to be fair,
that's where the division comes in at.
Right?
Right.
Yeah,
they have to.
I agree
You're
with
not
you,
saying they have to.
Yeah, I agree with you. They shouldn't. See, this is the thing about movie critics that I look at it like this. A movie should not, unless it's like the Entourage movie where the show ended and it's like this is the next step in the show, and you really don't want to show up for this movie if you haven't watched the TV show to know where they're going.
Right.
A movie should stand on its own 2 feet. And Malcolm, like on your reviews for Power Rangers, we use the Power Rangers. It's the latest one that has such a big disparity between the critics and the audience. If you look at the difference here is a movie should stand on its own 2 feet, and you shouldn't have to know the lore. I think for us, I mean, comic book fans, and I'm just going to say even bigger than comic book fans, we are pop culture fans. And we are in that demographic that everybody's pandering to right now because, number one, we have young children. Well, I have a young child. A lot of people have young children this age. And then we're the ones with disposable income, and this is that and the third. We still go to the movies and blase. When you look at that, we get an extra layer of enjoyment from this, and that is why the YouTubers are so important. It's because not only am I saying I want to see this movie, I'm saying, hey, I watched this as a kid. I know how this is supposed to be, and I'm glad to see this property back. That is why Hollywood is doing so many remakes right now, is because if you were an 80s baby or pretty close to being an 80s baby and those shows were on, it's okay to be a nerd now, so we can catch these people again in their adulthood, and they're going to bring their kids and raise their kids up as little nerds who in 20 years we're going to redo this again, and they'll come out and see it because they went and saw it with their dad when they were 5. That's the way this whole thing is working. So with the Rotten Tomatoes thing or whatever, Malcolm, I feel you because a lot of these people don't really have that, maybe that background with it. But they shouldn't have to be able to review a movie. But my problem is not with somebody that gives Power Rangers a bad review, because one shirt that I like, Jeremy may think that the pattern is terrible on the shirt. It's okay. We're 2 different people. What I have a problem with is people not knowing how Rotten Tomatoes works. Now, again, you see, if the 3 of us on the phone, we know how it works. You tell me a movie has a 47%, I can tell you about half the critics hated it, half of them loved it. Okay? Now, you want to get deeper into the analytics of it? Pull up Power Rangers on Rotten Tomatoes. There are critics, and then there are top critics. The 50% comes from a lot of your top critics in the country. So, again, the Rotten Tomatoes score is an aggregate that they use to summarize all the scores. Let's talk about that aggregation. That algorithm that they use to compile that is not a 100% process. How do you rectify a a critic who scores movies A, B, C, D, E, and F versus somebody who scores them on a 10-star basis versus somebody who scores them on a 5-star basis versus Mr. Sunday Movies who gives the best movie ever or whatever. So the aggregation itself is going to have a problem because it's man-made and nothing man-made is 100%. So what you have to do is go to the movies and make your own choice. Now, part of doing that is YouTubers. Hey, I've watched a lot of these movies. Chris Stuckman has reviewed a lot of old movies, a lot of things that's on Netflix. Hey, I agree with Chris Stuckman 75% of the time. So guess what? He's recommending it. I'll go check it out. That's how you connect with some of these people. And these critics on Rotten Tomatoes, you might read their columns and things of that nature. But a YouTuber is sitting there telling you, hey, I enjoyed this movie. I had a great time. This is why, blah, 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 blah. And you know he's a real legit fan of either the genre or either the property itself or just film in general, he might carry a little bit more weight. And this is why YouTubers like Black Nerd and those other guys are getting flown out there to take a look at these properties and to be the people to introduce this stuff. Because if I have an introduction from Black Nerd about something Power Rangers, I'm going to take his word for it pretty much because he is an authority, if you will. So,
yeah, and that is right.
But that's kind of what I was seeing.
And Malcolm, you said that at the beginning. I mean, as far as, like you said, the critics don't know. And when I said they don't have to, I mean, they don't care about it. They don't really have to because they might be into some other thing just like that. You know what I mean? They might be that kind of fan about Masters of the Universe. And then when that movie comes around, they can give their lifelong fandom input on that movie. You know, everybody's just into different things. So I do think that when you do go to Rotten Tomatoes, there's probably more value. Like if you're a fan of DC Comics, there's probably more value in going and looking at what the fan or the audience score is than there is in looking at what the critic score is. But, yeah, I would just, again, don't base your life on what critics say. Just using them for a reference is never a bad idea, especially with the amount of money it costs to go see movies. But I guess just at the end of the day, I do think it's unfair to say that critics are a separate entity from YouTubers when guys like Chris Stuckman are registered critics on Rotten Tomatoes, you know?
Yeah, I think the word critic for me holds a different, I guess a different connotation. And
understood, yeah.
You're right. You're right. I think this is my thing right here. If you have a system where you review movies and you give it a score, you're a critic.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where my line is. So, yeah, Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Jahns, I think those guys are critics. But I also think that there's something to the medium of video and the medium of podcasting.
Absolutely.
Because that you don't get from print. You can read words all day, and how you're feeling is going to go into that. You can look at Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Jahns, and they can say, hey, guys, look, yeah, I wasn't really feeling this part or that part, but they did great on this, they did good on that, they did great on this. So a lot of times it's not necessarily the grade they give, but the explanation and the medium in which they're using. That gives them a little bit more credibility. And I think that's kind of where I draw the line for those guys. But, yeah, you're right, Jeremy. They are definitely critics. They really are.
As moving along, this has been an amazing conversation. Glad that we got a chance to bring you all another episode of Fandom Talk. Kevin, you got anything you want to leave us with today?
Hey, man, I had a great time with you guys, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Most definitely. Jeremy, you got anything you want to leave us today?
I got some projects in the works that you guys should keep an eye out for over on the Be Terrible Movies YouTube channel. It's the Movie Monsters series. Getting a little bit deeper into production. It'll probably be a couple weeks before I release any of them, but look out for that. And before we go, I wanted to congratulate Malcolm on the recent influx of views, man. I think you broke 5,000 and then still climbing, huh?
Yeah, man. I think if I check my analytics now, I might be at 6. I don't know.
Good for
it
you,
was
man.
at 5,888, man. So just thank you guys for being in my corner, having my back, giving me great tips and advice. I did do a 5,000 views video, so if you get a chance, check that out. This has been an awesome journey in the 3 months that Fandoms Anonymous has been up and running. So it's the exponential growth is very positive. The synergy is amazing. And guys, don't forget to go check out Be Terrible Productions. Jeremy, let everybody know where they can find you at.
Again, guys, Be Terrible Movies on YouTube. Head over there, click that subscribe button. Check out some of the content I've got coming out over there. You can also go to BeTerrible.com. There's a Facebook page that you can check out. Go give it a like over there. I'm trying to get those numbers up on the Facebook front. But thanks for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have some cool stuff to talk about next week. Kevin's got some great photography. He does some cosplay photo shoots you guys should check out also.
Most definitely, guys. Immediately while you're listening to this, go over to Hubster Photography on Instagram, Hubster Photography on Facebook, and like the page. Kevin, tell us a little bit about what you got going on, man. I mean, I love those Daredevil pics. Tell us a little bit what you got going on.
Well, I'm an up-and-coming photographer, and I have reached out and worked with the cosplay community a lot. I have several other shoots I have not posted, but I have a few pictures of some of my friends that do cosplay, and they do really good jobs up there. So just check me out, at Hubster Picks on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you want a photo shoot or something, just send me a message and we'll work it out.
Yep, most definitely. Don't forget to follow those links, follow those channels. And, guys, if you don't already know who we are Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMS ANONYMOUS. We're Fandoms Anonymous on Facebook. Come like the page. Check out some of our updates and posts. Come join the Facebook group on Fandoms Anonymous. Come join the discussions on things that we're talking about now. We talk about them in Facebook form as well. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @anonymous_fan17. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Fandoms_anonymous17. Guys, thank you for joining us today. And if there is anything else, have a good one.